The courtroom was silent, not the peaceful kind of silence, but the heavy kind. The kind that presses against your chest. The kind that makes every small sound feel louder than it should. Even the ticking clock sounded like a hammer. And in the middle of it all, he laughed. A low, careless laugh. Armin leaned back in his chair, twirling the pen between his fingers like this was just another boring business deal. Not a marriage ending. Not a life collapsing. Just paperwork. "Is that all?" he asked, smirking. Across from him, Layla didn't respond. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She didn't even look at him. She just stared at the table. Still, quiet, almost distant. The judge adjusted his glasses. "We'll proceed with the final signing." Armin leaned forward, signed his name with confidence, and pushed the papers away like he couldn't wait to be free. 10 years. Gone in 10 seconds. He chuckled again. "You should have left earlier," he muttered under his breath. Still, no reaction from Layla, not even a blink. That irritated him more than anger would have. He wanted tears. He expected regret. But all he got was silence. And somehow, that silence felt wrong. The courtroom doors creaked open slightly as a clerk stepped in. "Your Honor," the clerk said softly, "there's an additional document that needs to be addressed." The judge frowned. "Additional document?" The clerk nodded and handed over a sealed envelope. It was delivered this morning. "Urgent." Armin rolled his eyes. "Can we not drag this out? I have somewhere to be." The judge ignored him. He opened the envelope carefully. His expression changed, subtle at first, then slowly, serious, very serious. Layla finally lifted her eyes, not toward Armin, toward the judge, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "What now?" Armin said impatiently. The judge leaned back in his chair. "This court has received a legal that directly affects both parties." Armin frowned. "A will? From who?" The judge paused, then spoke slowly. "From Mr. Rahim Khan." The name hit the room like thunder. Armin's smirk faded slightly. Layla's fingers tightened just a little on the table. Rahim Khan, her grandfather, the man who built an empire from nothing. The man Armin always pretended to respect, but secretly mocked. "Wait," Armin said, sitting up straight now. "He passed away months ago." "Yes," the judge replied calmly. "And this document was sealed under specific legal conditions to be opened only under one circumstance." The room felt colder. "What circumstance?" Armin asked. The judge looked directly at him. "In the event of your divorce." Silence again. But this time, it was different. Armin let out a short laugh. "Okay, and what does that have to do with me?" The judge didn't smile. "This will determine the ownership of Rahim Khan's estate." Now Armin was listening, really listening. "That estate," the judge continued, "is valued at approximately $50 million. Armin's eyes flickered, just for a second. 50 million. He glanced at Layla, but she still looked calm, too calm. "As per the will," the judge said, unfolding the document fully, "the entire estate was left to Layla Khan." Armin leaned back again, smirking. Of course it was. But the judge hadn't finished. Under one condition. That word again. Condition. Now even Armin's confidence paused. The judge adjusted the paper, his voice steady. "Clear. Layla Khan will retain full ownership of the estate only if her marriage remained intact." Armin's smile froze. "And if the marriage ended?" The judge looked up, straight at Armin. "The entire estate will be transferred to..." A pause. A long one. Too long. Armin leaned forward. "To who?" The judge's next words changed everything. "To her husband." The air left the room. Armin blinked. Once. Twice. "Wait, what?" The judge repeated it calmly. "In the event of divorce, the full estate transfers to the husband." Armin's heart started racing. "That means..." "Yes," the judge said. "It means you..." For a split second. Victory. Pure, unexpected victory. Armin leaned back, laughing again. Louder this time. "Wow," he said, shaking his head. That old man finally did something right. He looked at Layla, expecting a reaction. Anything but she just looked at him. Not angry, not sad, just watching, like she already knew how this would end. But the judge raised his hand. There is more. And just like that, the laughter stopped. Armin's smile faded again. What now? The judge took a breath. Mr. Rahim Khan added a final clause. Of course he did. There is always a clause, Armin muttered. The judge continued. The husband will receive the estate only if he willingly proceeds with the divorce after being made aware of this condition. Armin frowned. That makes no sense. It does, the judge said calmly. It means the decision must be conscious. No manipulation. No ignorance. Armin shrugged. Fine. I'm aware. I still want the divorce. The judge didn't react. Then I must read the final clause. Now, even Layla looked up fully. This was it. The moment everything had been leading to. The judge's voice lowered slightly, as if even he understood the weight of what he was about to say. If the husband proceeds with the divorce after hearing all conditions, the estate will transfer to him. A pause, along with all its liabilities. Armin blinked. Liabilities? The judge nodded. Yes. He flipped the page. There are outstanding debts tied to the estate. Armin waved his hand dismissively. How much could it be? A few million. The judge looked him dead in the eye. $72 million. Silence. Not heavy. Not tense. Dead. Completely dead. Armin didn't laugh this time. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. 72, he whispered. Yes. The judge placed the document down. The estate is not a fortune. It is a burden. Armin turned slowly toward Layla, and for the first time, he saw it. That calm expression. That stillness. It wasn't weakness. It wasn't sadness. It was certainty. You knew, he asked. Layla didn't hesitate. Yes. And just like that, the power in the room shifted. Armin's voice cracked slightly. Then why didn't you say anything? Layla finally spoke more than one word, her voice soft, but sharp, because you were laughing. The judge folded his hands. Mr. Armin, you now have a choice. Proceed with the divorce and inherit both the estate and its debt, or withdraw and walk away with nothing. Armin stared at the papers, then at Layla, then back at the judge. For the first time in a long time, he didn't know what to do, and that's when Layla said something unexpected, something that changed the game completely. You should go through with it. Armin looked at her, shocked. What? She met his eyes. Calm, unshaken. Take it. Now it didn't feel like an opportunity. It felt like a trap. Armin stared at Layla. Her words didn't feel real. You should go through with it. They echoed in his mind again and again. Take the debt. Take the risk. Take the fall. Why would she say that? This is a joke, right? He said, forcing a laugh that didn't quite land. No one laughed with him. Not the judge. Not the clerk. And definitely not Layla. I'm serious, she said. Still calm. Still steady. Almost encouraging. Take everything. Armin narrowed his eyes. Now his instincts kicked in. This wasn't kindness. This wasn't surrender. This was something else. Something calculated. You want to take $72 million in debt? He asked slowly. Yes. And you just walk away? Yes. That didn't make sense. Not even a little. Unless there was something he didn't know. Armin leaned back, crossing his arms. You're hiding something. Layla tilted her head slightly. No. But her eyes said something different. The judge cleared his throat. Mr. Armin, the court cannot advise you, but I will remind you, this decision is final. Final. That word hit harder than the number 72 million, because numbers could change, but final decisions, they don't. Armin looked down at the papers again. 50 million in assets, 72 million in debt, a net loss, a disaster, a trap, but then something else crept into his mind. Opportunity. What kind of debt? He asked. The judge glanced at the document. Business loans, property liabilities, legal claims. Armin's eyes sharpened. Legal claims? What kind of legal claims? The judge paused. As per the document, unresolved disputes tied to Rahim Khan's business dealings. Armin exhaled slowly. Now it made sense. Or, at least, part of it did. Rahim Khan wasn't just rich. He was powerful. And powerful men don't build empires cleanly. There are always shadows, always secrets, always enemies. And now, those enemies would become Armin's problem. He glanced at Layla again. You really want to take this? Her answer came without hesitation. Yes. That confidence, that certainty. It bothered him. Because people only act like that when they know something you don't. Why? He asked. This time, she didn't answer immediately. Instead, she leaned forward slightly. And for the first time, there was something new in her eyes. Not anger, not sadness, something colder. Because, she said quietly, you've always wanted everything. Armin frowned. That doesn't answer my question. Layla continued. You wanted the house. You wanted the business connections. You wanted the lifestyle. Her voice didn't rise, but each word hit harder than the last. And now, she finished, you can have all of it. Something about the way she said it made it sound like a warning, not an offer. Armin clenched his jaw. I'm not stupid. No, she replied. You're just predictable. That stung, more than it should have. He looked away for a second, thinking, calculating, trying to find the angle. Because there had to be one. There always was. What if I pay off the debt? He said suddenly. The judge raised an eyebrow. That would be your responsibility. Armin nodded slowly. 72 million. A huge number. But not impossible. Not if the assets were real. The estate is worth 50 million, he said. On paper, the judge corrected. Armin frowned. What does that mean? The judge adjusted the document again. It means a valuation is based on projected worth. Market conditions may vary. Of course, nothing was simple, but Armin wasn't done. What about liquid assets? The judge scanned the page. There is no mention of liquid funds. So, no cash, just property, businesses, and problems. Armin exhaled sharply. This was worse than he thought. And yet, he still didn't walk away. Because something inside him wouldn't let him. Greed? Maybe. Ego? Definitely. But also, curiosity. Because Layla wasn't afraid. And that meant one thing. Either she had already escaped the consequences, or she knew they weren't what they seemed. You're not scared, he said quietly. She shook her head. No. Why? A small pause. Then, because I've already lived through it. That confused him. What does that mean? But before she could answer, the judge spoke again. Mr. Armin, we need your decision. Now, not later, not after thinking. Now. The room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were closing in. Armin looked at the pen, then at the papers, then at Layla, and suddenly a memory hit him. The first time he met Rahim Khan. The old man had looked at him for a long time, silent, observing. Then he said something strange, something Armin didn't understand back then. Some men inherit wealth, others inherit consequences. At the time, Armin laughed it off. Just another old man's cryptic nonsense. But now, sitting in this courtroom, those words came back, clearer than ever. He looked at Layla again. You knew about this for the whole time? She nodded. Yes. And you stayed with me anyway? Yes. Why? This time, her answer came instantly, because it was never about the money. Armin stared at her, trying to read her, trying to understand. But he couldn't. Because for the first time, he was in control of the situation. The judge tapped the desk lightly. Your decision, Mr. Armin. Everything came down to this moment. Walk away and lose everything he thought he deserved. Or sign and step into something he didn't fully understand. Armin picked up the pen. His hand hovered over the paper. And then he smiled. A slow, confident, dangerous smile. Fine, he said. I'll take it. Layla didn't react. Not even a little. That should have worried him. But it didn't, because in his mind, he had already won. He signed the document, and in that moment, everything changed. The judge nodded once. It is done. But as the clerk gathered the papers, he added one final sentence. You will be contacted within 24 hours regarding the first claim. Armin frowned. First claim? The judge looked at him calmly. Yes, there are 12. And just like that, the weight of his decision began to settle. 12 problems, 12 unknowns, 12 consequences. Armin turned toward Layla one last time, but she was already standing, already walking away, and just before she reached the door, she stopped without turning back. She said something that sent a chill down his spine. Now you finally own what you always wanted. A small pause. Let's see how long you survive it. The door opened, then closed, and for the first time since the laughter, Armin felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. The courtroom felt empty after she left. Too empty. Like something important had just been taken out of it. Armin stood still for a moment. The signed papers rested on the table. His signature bold. Confident. Permanent. It's done, the clerk said quietly, gathering the documents. Armin nodded. Yeah, he replied, but his voice didn't sound as sure as before. He stepped outside. The sunlight hit his face. Bright, normal, almost mocking. Cars passed. People talked. Life moved on like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. He checked his phone. No missed calls. No messages. For a brief second, he smiled again. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe Layla was bluffing. Maybe the debt was exaggerated. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. Armin hesitated. Just for a moment, then answered. Hello. A pause. Then a voice. Cold. Professional. Mr. Armin? Yes. This is regarding your recent acquisition of Rahim Khan's estate. That was fast. Too fast. Yes. Armin said, trying to sound composed. Good. Then we can skip introductions. Something about that tone. It wasn't respectful. It wasn't polite. It was certain. As of now, the voice continued, you are responsible for all pending matters tied to the estate. I'm aware, Armin said. Excellent. A small pause. Then let's begin with claim 1. Armin's grip tightened on the phone. What is it? The voice didn't rush. Didn't soften. A repayment deadline that expired 3 months ago. How much? $8 million. Armin swallowed. 8. Just like that. That's not possible, he said quickly. I just took ownership today. Ownership includes history, Mr. Armin. Silence. And if I don't pay, he asked. Another pause. Longer this time. Then enforcement begins. Armin frowned. What does that mean? The answer came flat. It means we start collecting differently. The line went dead. Armin slowly lowered the phone. Different. He didn't like that word. Not at all. He told himself to stay calm. Think. This was business. Just business. He had dealt with pressure before. Deadlines. Negotiations. This was no different. Right? He got into his car and drove straight to the estate office. Rahim Khan's headquarters stood tall. Glass. Steel. Power. It looked like success. Not debt. Inside, everything was still operational. Employees working. Phones ringing. Screens glowing. But something felt off. The energy. The atmosphere. People weren't relaxed. They were tense. Watching. As soon as Armin stepped in, conversation slowed. Eyes turned. They knew. Of course they knew. Sir. A man approached quickly. Mid-40s. Sharp suit. Sharp eyes. I'm Imran, head of operations. Armin nodded. Good. Then you can explain what's going on. Imran hesitated. Just slightly. How much do you already know? Enough to know there's a mess, Armin said. Imran exhaled. Then I won't sugarcoat it. Good. Armin didn't want sugar. He wanted control. There are 12 active claims, Imran said. I heard. But that's just the surface. Armin's expression hardened. What does that mean? Imran glanced around, then leaned in slightly. Not all debts are financial. There was again that feeling. What else is there? Armin asked. Imran lowered his voice. Promises. Armin frowned. What? Agreements, deals, understandings. That's still business. Imran shook his head slowly. No, not all of them. A silence settled between them. Armin felt it again. That unease. Explain. Imran hesitated, then said something unexpected. Sir, why do you think Ms. Layla walked away so easily? Armin didn't answer, because he didn't have one. Imran continued. She's been handling this for the past year. That stopped Armin cold. What? Yes, that's not possible. It is. Armin's mind raced. You're telling me she knew about all this and stayed? Imran nodded. She didn't just stay. Another pause. She managed it. That didn't make sense. Layla, quiet, calm, reserved. She never talked about business. Never showed interest. Or maybe she did, and he just never noticed. What do you mean she managed it? Armin asked. Imran looked him directly in the eye. I mean, she kept it from collapsing. Armin felt something shift inside him, because suddenly, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control. And maybe he had just taken something he couldn't handle. Where's she now? He asked. Imran shook his head. I don't know. That wasn't good. Not knowing where Layla was felt worse than the debt, because she knew something important, something he didn't. Armin turned away, pacing slightly. Fine, he said. We deal with it step by step. Imran didn't respond. 8 million, Armin continued. We start there. Another silence. Then Imran spoke again. You can't. Armin stopped. What do you mean I can't? The accounts are frozen. That hit harder than anything so far. All of them. Imran nodded. Pending legal review. Of course they were. So how do we pay? Armin demanded. Imran didn't answer immediately. And that hesitation said everything. You don't, he said finally. The room felt colder again. Armin ran a hand through his hair. Think. There had to be a way. There's always leverage, he said. Imran's expression didn't change. Not this time. Before Armin could respond, his phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, he answered immediately. What? The voice on the other end was different. Rougher, less patient. 8 million, the voice said. I'm working on it. No, the voice replied. You're not. A pause. You're going to listen. Armin's jaw tightened. Or what? The answer came without hesitation. Or we remind you what ownership really means. Click. The call ended. Armin stood frozen. Ownership. That word again. But now, it didn't sound powerful. It sounded dangerous. Very dangerous. He turned slowly toward Imran. What did I just get myself into? Imran didn't soften the truth. You didn't step into a business, sir. A pause. You stepped into a storm. And somewhere, far from that office, Layla sat quietly in a dim room, a phone in her hand, watching the screen, tracking everything. And for the first time, her calm expression shifted, just slightly, because she knew something Armin didn't. The first claim was the easiest one. Night came faster than usual. Or maybe it just felt that way. The city lights flickered on one by one, but inside Rahim Khan's office, the tension didn't fade. It grew. Armin stood by the glass window, looking down at the traffic below. Everything moving, everything normal, except his world. 8 million, he muttered. Accounts frozen. 12 claims. And somewhere in the middle of it, Layla, she managed this, he said under his breath. Behind him, Imran remained still, watching, waiting. Who are they? Armin asked suddenly. Imran didn't pretend to misunderstand. The ones calling. A pause. Not one group, Imran said. Then what? Different parties. That made it worse. How many? Imran took a breath. At least 5 major ones. 5 powerful groups. All expecting something. All unpaid. Armin turned around slowly. And they've all been waiting? Imran nodded. Yes. For what? Another pause. For weakness. That word landed heavy. Armin let out a dry laugh. Well, they got it. But Imran didn't smile. No, he said quietly. They don't think you're weak. Armin frowned. Then what? Imran looked straight at him. They think you're new. That was worse, because new meant untested, unpredictable, easy to break. Before Armin could respond, the office lights flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. Both men froze. That doesn't just happen, Armin said. Imran's expression darkened. No, it doesn't. A second later, the main doors opened. Not rushed, not forced, slow, controlled. 3 men walked in, not employees, not visitors. They didn't check in, didn't ask permission. They just walked, like they belonged there. Armin's jaw tightened. Who are they? He whispered. Imran didn't look away from them. Claim 1. The air shifted instantly. The man in front stopped a few feet away. Mid-50s. Calm face. Cold eyes. Well, he said smoothly. That was quicker than expected. Armin stepped forward. You could have called. The man smiled slightly. We did. A pause. You didn't pay. Straight to the point. I just took over today, Armin replied. And yet, the man said, you signed willingly. There was again choice. Everything came back to that. Armin held his ground. I need time. The man tilted his head. Time was part of the original agreement, and it expired. Silence. I'll fix it, Armin said. The man studied him carefully, then took a step closer. Let me explain something to you. His voice lowered. Your predecessor didn't ask for time. Armin frowned. She negotiated. That hit differently. Armin said. Yes. Layla, of course. What kind of negotiation? Armin asked. The man's smile faded. The kind that kept us patient. A long pause. And you, he continued. What are you offering? Armin hesitated. Because for the first time, he didn't have an answer ready. I'll get you your money, he said finally. The man didn't react. That's not an offer. It's a promise. Promises, the man replied calmly, are exactly why we're here. Silence filled the room. Then, the man reached into his coat. Armin tensed. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a small envelope and placed it on the table. What's this? Armin asked. A reminder. Imran stepped forward slightly. Sir, the man raised a hand. Relax. Then looked back at Armin. Open it. Armin hesitated, but something told him he needed to see this. He picked up the envelope, opened it. Inside, photographs. Old ones. He pulled the first one out and froze. It was Layla, not recent, different, standing in front of the same office. But her expression, stronger, sharper, not the quiet woman he knew. This version of Layla looked like someone in control. Armin flipped to the next photo. Layla sitting across from the same man, now standing in front of him, talking, negotiating, equal. What is this? Armin asked. The man answered calmly. Proof. Of what? That she understood the rules. Armin's grip tightened. And I don't. The man's gaze hardened slightly. You will? A pause. Soon. Armin felt something shift again. This wasn't just about money. This was a system, a game, and Layla had been playing it all along, without him even realizing. She handled you? Armin asked. Yes. And now you expect me to do the same? The man smiled faintly. No. A pause. We expect more. That wasn't reassuring. At all. What happens if I don't? Armin asked. The room went still. The man stepped even closer. Close enough that his voice didn't need to be loud. Then the consequences won't stay financial. There it was. Clear. Direct. Real. Armin didn't look away. But inside, something tightened. 3 days, the man said. Not a minute more. He turned, and just like that, they walked out. No rush. No fear. Like they already knew how this would end. The door closed, and the silence returned. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one was heavier, because now the threat was real. Armin slowly looked down at the photos again. Layla, negotiating, controlling, managing, a completely different person. You knew about this? He asked Imran. Imran nodded slowly. Yes. And you didn't tell me? You didn't ask. That answer stung, because it was true. Armin never asked, never cared, never looked deeper. Until now. He dropped the photos on the table. Find her, he said. Imran hesitated. Sir, find her, Armin repeated, because now this wasn't just about survival. It was about answers. And Layla was the only one who had them. Across the city, in that same dim room, Layla watched another notification appear on her phone. Contact made. She closed her eyes briefly, not in fear, in preparation, because she knew what came next. And this time, there would be no negotiation, only consequences. She whispered something under her breath, not for Armin, not for the men, but for herself. It started, and somewhere deep in the city, the storm finally arrived. The office didn't feel like power anymore. It felt like pressure. Armin hadn't slept, not even for a minute. The photos were still on the table. Layla, smiling slightly, confident, in control, a version of her he had never known. Find her. Those were the only words he kept repeating. Imran had already sent people, checked locations, contacts, old records, nothing. It was like Layla had disappeared on purpose. And that made one thing clear. She wasn't running. She was waiting. Armin stood still, staring at the city again. 3 days. Now 2. The clock was ticking. Loud. Relentless. Sir, Imran's voice broke the silence. Armin didn't turn. What? We found something. That got his attention. What is it? Imran stepped forward slowly, holding a file. Not where she is. A pause. But what she was doing. Armin turned. Explain. Imran placed a file on the table. Opened it. Documents. Agreements. Records. All signed by Layla. Armin's eyes scanned the pages quickly. Dates. Amounts. Names. Different groups. Different terms. She renegotiated everything. Imran said. Armin frowned. What do you mean everything? Imran pointed at one page. This claim, originally 10 million. Armin looked closer. Reduced to 6? Imran nodded, and extended by 6 months. Armin flipped to another page. This one, settled partially. Imran added, How? Imran hesitated. Not with money. Armin looked up sharply. Then with what? A pause. Access. That word again. It was starting to appear too often. Access to what? Armin asked. Imran didn't answer immediately, which meant it was bad. Company assets, he said finally. What kind of assets? Imran's voice dropped slightly. Information. The room went still. Armin stared at him. You're telling me she traded information? Imran didn't deny it. She kept him satisfied. At what cost? Armin snapped. Imran held his gaze. At a controlled cost. That answer didn't sit right, because controlled meant intentional, calculated. Layla wasn't surviving. She was managing, playing a long game, and Armin had just stepped into it. Blind. Why would she do that? He asked. Imran didn't hesitate this time. To buy time. For what? Silence. Because that was the question. Before Imran could answer, Armin's phone rang again. This time, no unknown number, just a message. A single line. Check the lower archive. Locker 17. Armin's heart skipped. Who sent it? Imran asked. Armin didn't answer, because he already knew. Layla, take me there, he said. Imran didn't argue. Minutes later, they were in the lower levels of the building. Cold, dim, quiet. The kind of place people forget exists. Rows of storage lockers lined the walls. Numbers fading. Metal slightly rusted. Armin walked slowly, counting. 15, 16. Then he stopped. For a moment, he didn't move, because something about this felt different, bigger, like whatever was inside would change everything again. He reached forward, opened it. Inside, a single box, and a letter, his name on it, not printed, written, by hand. Armin's chest tightened. He picked it up, opened it, and began to read. If you're reading this, it means you chose exactly what I expected. His grip tightened slightly. You always choose ownership, even when you don't understand the cost. Armin exhaled slowly. Rahim Khan. It had to be. He kept reading. Layla tried to protect you from this. Not because you deserved it, but because she believed you could change. Armin's jaw clenched. Tried? So this wasn't part of her plan? Or maybe it was. This state is not wealth. It is a test. There was again. Test. Everything felt like a game. A controlled situation. Designed. Every claim you face is not random. Each one is tied to a decision I made and a consequence I accepted. Armin's mind raced. This wasn't just debt. It was history. Mistakes. Enemies. All waiting. Layla understood this. That's why she negotiated not to erase the debt, but to slow it down. That explained everything. She wasn't fixing the problem. She was delaying it, holding it back, until now. If you are reading this, it means she stepped away and gave you the choice I wanted you to have. Armin's eyes narrowed. Choice. Everything came back to that. You can try to fight them. You will lose. Not encouraging. At all. You can try to run. They will find you. Worse. Or... Armin paused. This was it. You can understand why the debt exists in the first place. A long silence followed. Because that was different. Not fight. Not run. Understand. Armin looked up slowly. What does that mean? He whispered. Imran didn't answer, because he didn't know either. Armin looked back at the letter. The final lines waited. The real inheritance is not this state. A pause. It's the truth behind it. And then, the last sentence. The one that changed everything. Start with claim 3. Armin frowned. Claim 3? Not 1. Not 2. 3. Why skip the first 2? Unless they weren't the real problem. He lowered the letter slowly. For the first time, the situation felt different. Less like a trap, more like a puzzle. A dangerous one, but still a puzzle. Imran spoke carefully. What do we do now? Armin didn't hesitate. Find claim 3, because if Rahim Khan was right, then everything Armin thought he understood was wrong. And somewhere, watching from the shadows of the city, Layla finally allowed herself a small breath. Not relief, not yet, but something close. Because Armin had just taken the first step, not into the debt, but into the truth. And once that started, there was no turning back.